I got the first ever debate in any parliament on excess deaths in the world. It took me 26 attempts in the House of Commons to get it. And it was only when I sent the video pointing out that previous speakers had been accused of suppressing debate on thalidomide, a week later I got a debate on excess deaths from Lindsay Hoyle. The truth is like a lion. We don't have to protect it. All we have to do is set it free, and we're going to set it free. And I'll set it free on the 18th of April. The vaccine harms, the excess deaths, the net zero, the WHO insurance, all the things I'm talking about in Parliament now that nobody wants to talk about. These are things that are going to affect you, your children, and your grandchildren. And none of these things, the way your Parliament is acting, is not it's going to happen. It's not in your interest. They're not looking after your interests. I've realised this. And I remember, I'll remind you again, you've probably heard me say it, that when I spoke out, I realised what was going on with the vaccines. And what pushed me to speak out was that was when the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Authority put in to vaccinate children down to the age of 6 months. People who are at no risk whatsoever. There's not been a healthy child of that age ever died anywhere in the world from COVID-19. But there was clearly a risk from these experimental vaccines. And I spoke out and got a debate on the 13th of December 2022, and I knew that they'd throw me out the Conservative Party for it. But I knew that I could explain it in a way that even the most pro-vaccine person would realise that there was no risk to those children, and there was a risk, however small they thought it was, from those vaccines. We shouldn't be giving them to them. Now, I spoke out on the 13th of December. We're now living in one of the very few countries in the world that didn't vaccinate down to 6 months. The government can rubbish what I said. They said I was talking conspiracy theories, but they didn't dare vaccinate down to 6 months of age in this country. They did in most of the other countries around the world. And if that cost me my political career, then that will be every day of the week, because that's what we're here for. And unfortunately, there are very few colleagues in the House of Commons with the same attitude. The BBC, on the last time they ever interviewed me, they said, why are you willing to sacrifice your career on the hill of vaccine harms? I said, because that's the hill you're killing my people on. That's what's going on. And when I spoke out on the 17th of March, using the government's own data from the ONS, on the number needed to vaccinate, known as the NNV, with the autumn booster, which we're giving to everybody. The autumn booster was going out to everybody. It worked out that I think it was the healthy 40 to 49 cohort. You had to vaccinate 934,000 of them, just to keep one, from the government's own figures, keep one person out of reporting into hospital with COVID-19. And with a severe adverse events rate of 1 in 800, it meant you were going to kill or put into hospital with serious injury 1,150 people just to keep that one person out of hospital with COVID. And that wasn't in intensive care, that was just reporting to hospital saying, I don't feel very well, I think I've got COVID. And again, the government said Andrew Bush is spouting his conspiracy theories, but if you look within 3 weeks, they've restricted the booster campaign only to the over 75s. And again, I think that's saved lives. The government are not looking after you. Parliament is not looking after you. And that is easily demonstrated by the grandee of the Conservative Party. Before I was actually kicked out, after I'd been suspended, I had a meeting with them. I explained for an hour and a half my concerns over the vaccine harms, the use of midazolam and morphine on the vulnerable elderly, NICE guideline 163, which I believe was responsible for euthanizing tens of thousands of people who were moved out of hospital to make way for the expected first wave of COVID patients, who never came, by the way. The hospitals were empty. They never came, but that created the first wave. And after an hour and a half of this, the grandee listened, and I knew this person I was speaking with was speaking for the party, and I also knew that his sister had to go into hospital after the second Pfizer vaccine I didn't tell him any of this, but that is what had happened. He knew everything. And he turned to me at the end of the meeting, well, it became the end of the meeting, when he turned to me and said, Andrew, there is currently no political appetite for your views on the vaccines. There may well be in 20 years' time, and you're probably going to be proved right then. But in the meantime, you need to bear in mind that you're taking on the most powerful vested interest in the world with all the personal risk for you which that will entail. And I said, thank you very much for listening to me. I'm leaving the meeting now. I guess that's the end of it. And they expelled me from the Conservative Party for that. So I wouldn't cover it up. But look at what's been, this has all been done to you before. Isn't it? The thalidomide crisis. Thalidomide was suspended in 1961. 60% of the babies, pregnant women who took it, the babies died. 40% were born with horrendous disabilities. It was 1972 before the word thalidomide was allowed to be mentioned in the chamber of the House of Commons, and compensation was obtained for those victims who the children were 11, 12, 13 years old by then. And I looked at the ruling from the Strasbourg Court of Human Rights, and it actually said in the 3 judges had come to the conclusion that successive speakers of the House of Commons had deliberately suppressed debate on thalidomide for 11 years. And I got the first ever debate in any parliament on excess deaths in the world. It took me 26 attempts in the House of Commons to get it. And it was only when I sent the video pointing out that previous speakers had been accused of suppressing debate on thalidomide, a week later I got a debate on excess deaths from Lindsay Hoyle on the 20th of October last year. We've had another debate in Westminster Hall for 90 minutes. I managed to get 17 colleagues to come to that. I've now got 24 signed up for a 3-hour debate. We won't get 3 hours, they won't allow us 3 hours in the main chamber on the 18th of April in a few weeks' time. The truth is coming out. They're not going to get 20 years cover-up on this. They're not going to get 20 months. But all the political parties are a party to it. They've all got massive political capital tied up in this. They don't want anything breaking before the general election. I think they're going to have to be disappointed, because the truth is like a lion. We don't have to protect it. All we have to do is set it free, and we're going to set it free. And I'll set it free on the 18th of April.